There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible. In golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online. Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbiff Rugby Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. The top 14, Pro de National, Les Bleus, town, cities, bars, food, cuisine, restaurants, people, fans, stadia, everything that make the French rugby experience so fantastic. Rob, how's the start to your week been? Are you feeling a bit post-trip blues or optimistic in the South London sunshine? Talk to me.
Very much post-trip blues. Yeah, yesterday was a tough day back at work after being in northern France for a glorious weekend, I have to say. How about you? How were you feeling yesterday? You said you were feeling all right. Just work was a bit of a knob.
Little bit of a knobbish work day, but nothing we can't deal with. I was all good. I think the bit of South London sunshine helping ease the post-trip burden. Although I would take a slight issue with one of the things you said there, which was that we're in northwest France. We're actually in Brittany. As we found out that identity is strong up there in the north. But yeah, we might as well get into it. We've just returned from very fortunately one of the most kind of vaunted tickets in the top 14 in the beautiful city of Vannes. Quite the experience.
Are we going city or is it town?
I don't actually know.
Population of 55,000. I looked that up yesterday.
Okay.
Which was bigger than I thought. To be fair, the whole place was a bit bigger than I thought. I was expecting like a tiny little outpost. But it was, I mean, the town generally had a bit of a buzz to it. It was, I mean, walking distance everywhere, but it was pretty busy and pretty people about, weren't there?
It was lively. The whole place, I would say, superseded my expectations. I think we're probably quite used to, generally you're going to get a fairly agreeable match day experience, as it were, in France, aren't you? Like there's always a bit of fanfare, few kind of pre-game and post-game histrionics to keep you interested, as well as the rugby. But I would say maybe there's a bit of a recency bias, but I would say this was probably up there in terms of the places certainly I've visited, and certainly the place itself it's absolutely stunning.
It's a beautiful place. I hadn't quite. Obviously, you see like the odd photo, like we've seen photos and their social media, the Van social media is very good at doing arty posts of moody posts of the town and the stadium and the fans, and it all looks very, very good and very picturesque. I hadn't quite appreciated the whole town was going to be quite so picturesque with the kind of wooden beamed buildings. I don't know what you'd call them, but Brittany kind of, you see it on their social media, kind of the old school, almost fairy tale buildings just throughout the town and every kind of shop front, and just makes every shop look so appealing. Like, you know, we saw the best looking kebab shop ever in like baby blue painted wooden beamed like a building out of Shrek almost. Like
Istanbul kebab did look quite appealing, didn't it?
Istanbul kebab
Yeah,
in Brittany.
yeah. It was yeah, it's a really genuinely beautiful place. And then I guess it's sort of you've got the centre, haven't you? Which is say those beautiful timber framed, slightly off center buildings, and then it opens out into the quay, the harbour. Not sure what the official parlance is for it, but where yeah, lovely kind of selection of bars. Everybody, as it turns out, the weather was absolutely immaculate, so everybody enjoying a few glasses, something in the sun, including a stag do from Guernsey who looked like they were about to be in all sorts of trouble relatively soon after we bumped into them.
I think that would have been what, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I think the stag was kind of already propped up on
He was
on
done,
the
yeah.
wall, kind of about to, like, not quite full head in hands, but not far off. Like the odd kind of the hand was touching the face every now and then as he leaned forward. Yeah.
Yeah, he was he
They'd
was
got I don't think I'd quite realise, like, because we've got Jersey Baker, shout out, our follower, who unfortunately was unable to make it because of the ferries. But I don't think I'd quite realised that ferry trips to Brittany from the Channel Islands was quite so much a thing. They'd kind of got the ferry to St Malo and driven or bus or something from there. I hadn't realised there was quite as much identity or kind of cross pollination with the Channel Islands as there seems to be.
yeah, appears that way. And then I guess for another just final word on the town itself, as if, that lovely contrast of the buildings and then the sort of open, slightly, more built up harbour wasn't enough. The next morning we discovered some of the more impressive ramparts on the outside of the town, which had actually seen photos of before. But yeah, just architecturally and culturally and just the whole atmosphere of the place was really quite delightful, really.
Kind of, yeah, the kind of moat area of the ramparts was like immaculate flower beds and kind of ornamental flower arrangements. It was yeah, it was stunning. And also the remarkable stoat in the on
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
so
discovered that the stoat is the emblem. Yeah, the emblem of Van as a town, and is closely linked to wider Brittany. But yeah, there's a kind of ornament, like a kind of, I don't know what you call it. Or it wasn't quite a flower bed, but it was kind of arranged in the crest of the town, which was quite cool with the stoat.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, the stoat. I think the flag of Brittany is like the stoat with like a Breton cape, as far as I can tell, which is quite cool. The drapeau de vin. Yeah, fantastic. But that obviously preceded our stroll to the Stade de la Rabine, where we were met by our host for the day. Shout out if you're listening, Florian, who kind of showed us the van ropes and was also modelling one of the more specific bits of French rugby paraphernalia you'll ever see, which is there are different guises of it that have obviously been brought out over the years, but a very cool Mousqueton, I think, is the name of the brand, that sort of Breton seafaring company, wearing a very heavy cotton.
If Jules or Crew was more chic.
Yeah, a little bit more, I'd say a bit more rustique than
Yeah, a bit more
than
authentic
Jules.
than Crew or Jules or
Yeah,
Fat Face.
fat face. Excellent. Breton fat face. No, it's not good.
That was a remarkable shirt. It was, yeah, it was a kind of like a fisherman's overshirt,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Also, I think it would be remiss not to talk about the kind of the way to the ground. So we did go into the shop, which was remarkable and had some of the best unique stash items I think we've seen. Like,
Yeah, I
we
don't know
saw
about best necessarily.
yeah, those Mousqueton shirts were great. There was a pair of trainers which were quite
Interesting.
impressive. Yeah, some of the other stuff was quite interesting, like some of the basketball vests. I'm not sure about them. Also, there was also some items that we saw round the ground that were amazing, like the corduroy caps were glorious. But we did, and kind of on the way to the ground, just round the corner, is a bar that you needed reservations for, but it was a kind of a bit of a band outside, or a few drummers, and the kind of I just think we started referring to him as John Rugby Club Van, like the kind of John Portsmouth Football Club equivalent. Not quite the full tattoos and everything, but the old boy with the kilt and the big flag and the beret and the full Scottish like Prince Charlie jacket as well. Like it was kind of everything. But he was kind of the community hub, I guess, the kind of center of that, but willing to take photos. There was the big face of John Noel Spitzer that had kind of been blown up into a big picture for people to parade around.
The Free Spitzer campaign.
Yeah, Free Spitzer. And it was just like, we kind of thought that maybe pre-game there'd be a bit going on like just outside the ground. And I think that just, you kind of get sucked into that at the time and you're just like, this is amazing. Before you've even like got to the gates, you're kind of already sucked in by this is brilliant. Like everyone there is up for it. It did feel like one of those places where the town is geared towards, much like Bayonne, like the town is geared towards match day and that game, and everyone walks from the town to the ground. And it is, I think that's the most central, other than the Rec, I think that's the most central rugby ground in a town I can remember. Even more central than Bayonne, if anyone's been there.
Yeah, it's properly, it's right by the quay, isn't it? You literally like roll out of the of the quay and it's there. The other thing, just on that bar that we didn't go in pre-game, but there was as fun as it looked, it was very dark in there, and I'm sure it's like the place to be pre-game, but it was a real like moody underground setup with no drinks outside. And we asked the guy who was the closest to being outdoors whether you could drink outside, and he sort of said no, and that's hence why he was basically leaning fully out of a window, taking the one bit of the bar in the sunshine, enjoying a little gitane and a pint, which is quite funny.
And then you get to the ground, and I hadn't quite realised this, but the front it's not quite through someone's flat like Luton Town Football Club, but it's not quite it's not that far off. You kind of go through I don't know, we'd call it like a courtyard.
I think it's is it not a music venue? Or like a music conservatoire sort of. It's going to really annoy me, but yeah, it's like the courtyard. You're right, and then the building that surrounds it is like this sort of, again, this really pretty ornate building. And then suddenly you're literally at the back of the ground. It's really like the ground pops up out of nowhere.
You've got this Henry VIII courtyard with a piano in the middle, and then you go through, you kind of shuffle through with your checks and your ticket checks, and then all of a sudden you're in the ground. Yeah, it's quite unique, that. Yeah, and then I guess your first welcome of the players, Rich, that you witnessed, your kind of first welcome to ground of the players. What did you think about that?
I enjoyed it. I'll be honest, I can't be bothered to be somewhere 2 hours beforehand, and that's pretty much, unless I'm getting a flight, but for a rugby game. But it was very cool, and obviously the Breton anthem, which I'm not going to pronounce correctly, but obviously
Land of My Fathers.
Well, it's Brogoj Zado, but it's the same tune, obviously, as the Welsh national anthem, which is very cool, and it's probably I don't know, I think it's probably my favourite anthem, unbelievably, being an Englishman. But it's quite some way to welcome the players in. There was definitely, I feel like, because of the stakes of the game as well, there felt like there was a little bit perhaps more fervour than there has been, at other grounds I've been to, whether that's the same for the walk-on of the players. The walk-on of the Perpignan players was slightly bizarre in that so Florian, who was with us, was explaining it's one thing he would change. So everyone lines up at the gates for the Van players, and they kind of come through. But for the opposition, they basically get dropped off 10 yards further up the car park and have to circumnavigate like a wire gate that takes them through, I don't know, like a basement or something.
Yeah, they literally like dodging cars in the car park to go through a porter cabin, which is quite a bit of a shame, because I'd say the best welcome the fans that welcome of players that I've been to is the Perpignan one, because it's absolutely mad with all the flares. And there were a lot of Perpignan fans there. I think we were kind of staggered by maybe it's because we were kind of near quite a lot of them during the game, but there was a good number, like 1,000 maybe, I reckon, in total.
Yeah, it
Wouldn't be
was.
far off.
It was
And given the
serious.
yards that is quite impressive because that is two ends of the country. Well, and it is a big old country. You kind of forget sometimes how big France is. You don't get 1,000 Chiefs fans going to Newcastle, do you?
No.
Like,
Well, no, certainly not at the moment. You don't.
which was so that was a bit of a shame. But like, yeah, the pre-match build-up, and we had the Breton sausage with galette, so very traditional Brittany dish as well pre-game. It was glorious sunshine as well. We were in the standing bit, and we were actually near quite a lot of USAP fans. The view, I think that we were so close to the pitch. I think, you are kind of, when you're standing, you are kind of on your tiptoes a bit and dodging, trying to shuffle your head around, and there's bits you're not going to see. But I think given that we were on an end standing, it was, to be that close to the game was really, really cool.
Yeah, for €15 as well, or whatever it was. And then yes, there was a game amongst that, which was for the most part pretty engrossing, I would say.
Really entertaining game.
Obviously, it's rang out 20 all, which I saw Paul Edison on X yesterday. Perpignan have achieved the remarkable feat of, since December, playing in 3 all draws, which is quite something.
Oh, because they drew the cheaters, didn't they?
Drew the cheaters, and then at home to Cast, and now away at Vannes, which you would have got fairly long odds on, I would have thought, at the start of the year on 3 all draws. But yeah, Rob, how do we break it down? It was probably, that's a bit of a cop out, probably not an unfair result. I think Perpignan probably would have felt a little bit hard done by, albeit Van were pretty good value, and therefore 20 all is probably okay. But yeah, where do you land?
I guess it was kind of Van probably dictating the areas of the game and slightly in control versus USAP being consistently threatening. Kind of like I guess if it's a boxing match, you've kind of got the guy trying to keep them at arm's length and largely succeeding, but you've got the other boxer kind of, do something very quickly, very effectively at any point. And it was, not to say, like, USAP played with thrilling pace. I think we kind of have to note that. Like, it's a weird one because they haven't scored many tries at all this season. And the game that I saw last year at Stade Mineral, when they were on a great run of form and actually lost that game to Clermont, but they'd been playing some great rugby. It was very similar, kind of so much pace from Ekashard and McIntyre, and a willingness to get it wide, and the big ball carriers in the back line of the Fijians and De La Fuente, but also kind of just the width and the willingness to get it away from the ruck and get it moving was brilliant. And they definitely didn't have that when we saw them away at Cast.
No.
They definitely didn't have that. I think that partnership between Ekashard and McIntyre. And McIntyre is seen as a very key cog for USAP, and is kind of not a player that would be hugely heralded, really. He's a good player, never played for Australia, I don't think, but forged a pretty decent career in the top 14. He just looks like it's just fun. He's just fun to watch. Like, they're just fun to watch, I think, just because they give it a real go.
Yeah,
and I guess
it's slightly odd, isn't it, that it's like it was really obvious as well. I mean, obviously we don't watch Perpignan play every week, but the width they played with, like, almost like Seven style miss passes wide at points, kind of missing 3 men to get it out into the wide channels. But as you say, for a team that hasn't scored too many tries, I guess McIntyre's been injured quite a bit, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So perhaps it's more runs through him than certainly I'd give him credit for. But I mean, their first try is a beautiful case in point of that. I don't know where it comes.
Try the weekend, I reckon.
It was absolutely stunning. It was Delpy, wasn't it? Who finished it off, I think.
No, De La Fuente.
De La Fuente. Yeah, it was just magnificent. Take a look if you get a moment. And then I suppose on the flip side of that as well, the other key thing in Perpignan's favour, which is no small trump card to have up your sleeve, was their scrum, which was pretty dominant all game, really, against a scrum that has actually gone fairly well for the most part.
Yeah,
you would think if assuming if they can survive the drop, or get out of that access match spot, their scrum is going to be absolutely pivotal to that. Neither reason that they'll probably stay up. Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, I think it did shift slightly, didn't it, when Mako came on and Brooks went off. But it was still, I mean, Perpignan was still largely on top. But I thought Brooks properly minced a couple of scrums, as did Georgie Berrier. And I think we've been banging that door for a while this season. So to see it in the flesh and be quite that destructive was, validated our views, but it certainly validates the form of Kieran Brooks, who is having a stellar season. I think we've done a bit of trumpeting of him, especially, we could be accused of bias after we had him on the podcast this season. But yeah, just a turnaround because he was never kind of quite that level when he was in England. I don't think, he got England caps, but he was never quite that just like out and out destructive at scrum time. It's proper like Julian White stuff, isn't it? Like,
yeah, he's been awesome for them. Yeah, I guess the kind of key thing for this is it's another one that Van have ultimately let slide. I mean, it was pretty tight all game, but to have a 10-point lead with 3 minutes of normal time left.
I think they got the conversion went over at like 75 minutes.
I thought it was a bit later than that. Certainly on the
No, it's not. But I think the second try, the Perpignan try, was about 3 minutes to go.
Well, 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
You would hope defendable.
Also, just on that finish, the remarkable thing about Van is that they really pride themselves on the respect for the kicker, which is, well, as you might expect from Brittany rather than France, very un-French. If you go down to Perpignan and the Catalan region, it is very much not respecting the kicker and how much noise can we make while the kicker is lining up his kick. And some pressure kicks from Tommy Allen, the conversion, which is basically on the touchline, and the penalty, which is not an easy one, it's probably about 15 meters in. Those kicks go bang through the middle of the posts. It's like the nerves. I don't know whether the respect kind of makes it easier or not, but yeah, the fair play to Van for being utterly silent in that. And actually, I think it was almost like the USAT fans making noise during some of the kicking. To have kind of Allen come off the bench to kick those goals is a bit of a trump card. Although, did you know that we saw the first missed kick of the season from Valentin Delpy?
No, I did not know that.
22 from 23 kicks in the top 14 this season, yeah. And he was a player that, it's weird because there was possibly a bit of confirmation bias to an extent, but we've liked him. I think probably because he kind of had that Blognac connection, and we kind of feel a bit of an affiliation to Blognac, having been there before, and then obviously the sad tale of their demise. But he was really impressive. I think I hadn't quite realised how composed and how skillful he was as well. We knew he was quite composed and he had a good kicking game, but some of the skills and willingness to run, playing at 15, and like the length of his boot as well. Like he kicked one from halfway, didn't he? And then there's the De La Fuente one is basically from the touchline as well, and it's banged through the middle. I thought
prospect.
He's definitely kind of in the excitement was like, oh, we're watching a future French fly half, and that's probably me getting carried away after a few beers in the sun, but it's not out of the question, is it? Like, he could well play for France in that 10 jersey in years to come.
Yeah, 100%.
The other player that we were both really impressed with, possibly again a bit of confirmation bias, but player that almost certainly will play for France as well in the future, is Robin Takola, who man of the match in the game, in the under-20 Six Nations game against Ireland. But he scored the winning try, but he was really, really good, really physical, runs great lines, just again looked ridiculously composed. He's 19. That's just...
And far more of a physical presence, I would say, than perhaps I'd given him credit for the little bits I'd seen in the past. Yeah, didn't shirk the heavy stuff for sure.
Any other players that you kind of spotted or impressed with, or opinions flipped round, or
not massively. I thought it's pretty clear. Like Callum Mafoney's a bit of a kind of like, what's the word, talisman, isn't he? I thought Lafarge controlled the game plan pretty nicely for Van. They didn't look quite as potent in attack, but they kind of knew what they were doing,
wasn't there?
Yeah, a little bit more.
Not all of it amazing.
No, but they should have won this game ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah.
were it not for the end. And the other guy who actually I think was in the mid-Olympic team of the week for Perpignan, is it Sabella, the six?
Sabella, yeah, I was really
very
impressed
good.
with him. Yeah,
Was
he
very,
was the
very
other one
good.
that I kind of noted as being not a player I knew anything about really, kind of, and just really physical, really dynamic. Looked a really good player.
Yeah. Nkosi had his moments of absolute madness, didn't he? He sort of dropped like where was he?
Nkosi filled up the really
The
played to the
cliche
Fijian
quota.
winger stereotype. Yeah, like all fingers and thumbs at one point. Next one he catches and just mows over three people.
Yeah, yeah, it was incredible. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, it was a fantastic, it was a great game. It was a I think the quality actually of the game probably belies a draw between the two bottom sides. There was genuinely some excellent rugby. And I, for one, will certainly be going back to Van at the nearest possible opportunity. It was a brilliant day out.
And it's actually, yeah, it's not that. I mean, we're very lucky that we both live relatively near Gatwick, but it was an early start from yours. But generally, it's actually fairly doable once you've kind of sorted out the early start from Gatwick on the Saturday. To do it for one night was actually pretty quick. Although we did have our first GAMI train of first bus replacement.
Bus
we
replacement.
paid the €2 extra for first class, and then lo and behold, half an hour into our journey, we were given a bus replacement
orders
for another hour, which was very much not first class, spacious luxury.
Yeah, it was quite funny.
I think just on Van, so Van do sit bottom, obviously, and that's a bit of a lost opportunity for them. They are now 6 points off 12th and Stade Francais. I did generally get a sense of, I know like everyone's kind of friends there and there kind of does seem like a very close-knit community, but it felt very defiant. That did not feel like a team that was going down.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a team like, no, we are staying up. We believe our team. We're delighted to be in the top 14, but we're here to stay, sort of thing. It doesn't. I know a couple of weeks ago I was running through what 14th place means in the top 14 and how teams haven't come back up. I do get the sense that if they were to go down in 14th place, they would be challenging, because I think they would be.
Oh, definitely.
They're a bit more. Don't know. I think they know where they've come. They're so closely tied to their roots, as it were. It feels like a bit of a cliche, but there is that kind of element that they know that they've come up from something very small, very recently, and there is that kind of that sense still.
It's obviously it's definitely a massive missed opportunity, but I think they genuinely they're only 2 points behind Perpignan even after that, so they do have more than a shout of at least making that access match spot, and they'll be tough to beat for whoever, if they do play anyone in that game. And as you say, if they do go down, and maybe it's a conversation for another time, but they've had the same coaching setup. It's not like they've had to. I'm not saying other teams have done this, but it's not like they've had to rip up their identity, their game plan, their squad in order to fit into the top 14. They've made quite a few signings, but there are a lot of guys who done well for them in the past who have come through. So you would think that kind of cohesion would serve them pretty well, plus being on the map and probably being slightly financially more secure. Yeah, I think they'll be with us in some guys around the top 14 for a little while.
They've got a horror run though.
Yeah,
Castaway, Toulon at home, La Rochelle at home, that's winnable. Bayonne away, Pau at home, that's winnable. Bordeaux away, that's
it's not ideal, is it? Who have Perpignan got?
Perpignan presumably got Montpellier away in the derby weekend. They've got Racing at home, Montpellier away, Stade Francais at home, Clermont away, La Rochelle away, Toulouse at home. So they basically play, in their remaining 6 games, they play the 5 other worst teams. In their final 7, they've had 6 of the worst teams and then Toulouse.
Yeah.
So that's pretty lucky.
Well, you say
maybe it will be La Rochelle. Maybe we're looking at La Rochelle going down.
Maybe.
Or Stade Francais or Racing.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to tell you that Michelob Ultra is giving you the chance to win tickets to the NBA Finals. That's right. The 2025 NBA Finals. Just head to MichelobUltra.com/NBA Finals. Michelob Ultra courtside NBA Finals sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents, excluding Maryland residents. 21 up. Begins at 9 a.m. EST on February 16th, 2025. Ends on May 5th, 2025. See official rules at MichelobUltra.com/rules for prize and details. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
Get ready for Netflix's gripping new medical drama, Pulse. Set in a cutting-edge Miami trauma center, third-year resident Dr. Danny Sims is unexpectedly thrust into a promotion when beloved chief resident Dr. Xander Phillips gets suspended. Then, with the emotional and physical stakes at their highest, a storm will push the hospital and its residents to their limits. Witness how life can change in a heartbeat when you're operating under pressure. Watch Pulse April 3rd, only on Netflix.
Is anyone out there?
Another salesperson enduring the endless search. Exhausting. If you want to get right to the right conversations, you need LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Whether you're looking for new leads or strengthening existing relationships at your top accounts, get right to the right conversations with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Try LinkedIn Sales Navigator now with a free 60-day trial at linkedin.com/trial. That's linkedin.com/trial.
Terms and conditions apply!
Rochelle, of course, who continue to have, they haven't won a game in the top 14 for like
any
80
competition
days or something.
They've not won a game in any competition since January the 5th or January the 4th, I think.
It's outstanding, isn't it?
First weekend of January, because they lost both their Champions Cup games as well.
It's quite remarkable.
And that one win was the last-minute penalty from Antoine Astoy over the Toulouse
under
18s.
Yeah, that's wild, isn't it? No aggro between Urios and O'Gara in this one, unfortunately. From what I could garner.
Gutted.
Yeah, feels like a bit of a letdown. And then you mentioned Stade Francais. I
think the key for Clermont, just quickly on Clermont, they had he scored one of the best tries of the weekend. That George Mawala back, and I think the fact they looked like they had all of their players available. I think Soakula played as well. Yeah, I've not seen much of him either. Just to have a couple of big non-GIFs who are star internationals seems to make all the difference for Clermont.
The right end of the season.
Yeah.
You mentioned Stade Francais there, who provided the implosion of the round, having been 29-3 up away at Montpellier and proceeded to lose 38-32, the last play of the game. That is just not what you want to be doing when you're in a bit of a relegation scrap.
They didn't even get a card.
Incredible. I mean, fair play to Montpellier. That's genuinely quite a comeback, but just crazy stuff. And Bayonne beat Lyon pretty comfortably, which was, I believe, to be expected. Unbelievably, Racing 92's resurgence continues. The Collazo Big Sam era is very much upon us. They got in the end, quite dramatic win at home to Union Bordeaux-Bègles. Not entirely straightforward at the end, but Rob, I think you said you caught a bit of this on your Sunday night when you got back from Brittany.
They were good. They were really good. Well, really good is probably a bit of a stretch. Fiku makes such a big difference for them. I thought he was really, really good. Both sides of the ball. Defensively, he was able to snuff out quite a lot of the threats from UBB and up against two very, very good centres in Rohan Jansi van Rensburg and Joran Mofana, who were both brilliant in this game. Yet Rohan Jansi van Rensburg feels like I don't know whether it's a confidence player or like a fitness, certain levels of fitness he has to get to, but he can look like a complete donkey or he looks like just the most powerful man on earth. He's just in great form at the moment. I think he's basically been their best player in the last two games, if not more. Yeah, I thought, don't know, UBB were kind of like, it's kind of that thing that we've perhaps levelled at them a bit in the past, is like kind of just not quite there at all times during a game. Their line out was an absolute shambles.
Yeah, I think they lost. Did they lose every line out in the first half? I think it was so.
I don't know if that's
8 from 8 or something like that.
It wouldn't surprise me given how they played, which is just ridiculous, really, for a team that's, trying to be the champions of France and champions of Europe. Like, it's just, they scored a maul try at one point.
Inexcusable.
Yeah. So when they do get it, to work, they can score, they can use their pack really effectively. Jalibert had lovely little touches here and there, kind of peppered into the game. He's such a skillful player. I was intrigued to see how he's going to go on the flat track of La Défense, and he was, pretty electric, really. Just capable of sparking it. But the best playmaker, the leader of men, British English hero, Dan Lancaster, yet again, just a brilliant performance, really composed. Goal kicking was good. It wasn't perfect, but no 10, most 10s rarely ever are. I'm a big fan of Finn Russell, who is very rarely plays a perfect game. So I can't kind of criticize the odd knobbing one a bit long or whatever like that. But he looks like he's really grown into it. He looks like he is actually kind of dictating. I saw him directing players around and getting his team organised in attack. And yeah, he just looked very composed. It's been a tough run for him, but last couple of weeks, maybe it's maybe, as you said last week, his dad buggering off, or maybe it's just, or like there's a bit of a different game plan with Collazo, or just knowing that kind of he's going to be the man for a bit with Faz coming back from injury. I don't know, but seems to be playing completely different rugby to what he was earlier on in the season, and it's a nice story. It's a real nice redemption arc.
Yeah, it's impressive, isn't it? We said last week, I mean, he's copped a fair bit, and I wouldn't say we've exactly, not been on that train of points as well. And I think certainly the first half of the season, it did appear slightly baffling. The selection plus form plus some of the performances were genuinely pretty ropey. But yeah, it's clearly made of stronger stuff, and he's going really well in a side that are actually in a little bit of a mini run of form. No doubt having and I don't mean this to be glib, but when you've got Garrick inside you, Tuasova and Fiku outside, your job to kind of make that work, and fair play to him. He's doing a great job. And the goal kicking thing's interesting actually, because some of his kicking earlier in the year was like, it was so clearly off, like it just wasn't good enough for the standard that was being played. And maybe it's a bit of a bellwether for his confidence, the fact he's kicking pretty well.
That was going to be my next point, that he does have Garrick back in, although he had Gibert last week. So, but having Garrick is, I mean, how many times have we said that in the course of us doing this podcast, that Garrick is just such a big thing for Racing, and he got an interception in this game, which was pretty sharp, to be honest. Yeah, he's just such a difference maker, because he is just so composed and spark stuff and just a level above anyone else they've got, really.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and describe it because it was wild and I can't do it justice, but the last 2 minutes of this game are worth a look if anyone has the time. I genuinely thought Racing, a couple of errant loose kicks in what suddenly looked like a sevens pitch, which obviously La Défense is on occasions. I was like, they're going to lose this if there's one team that can go the length with the ball bobbling around. And they very nearly did as well. But no, fair play to Racing for holding on.
First win at home in blooming ages as well.
Yeah, it was a really, when was it? The last one, Perpignan, wasn't it? Which was back in October or something. Yeah. Yeah, quite the change of fortunes.
They do have the second worst home record in the league, joint with Vannes. Well, 1 point ahead of Vannes, so they've picked up a bonus point somewhere, one more than Vannes have. But
nice. Your boys, Rob, took a little bit of you were
Toulouse.
Looking at the oh god, I hadn't noticed that. That is grim. Turncoats. You got the top and bottom of the table wearing the kit from. I don't know how I feel about that. But you were slightly looking through kind of gritted teeth at the live updates of this one. Toulouse to starters, Toulouse are just imperious at the moment. They had pretty much their best side out one way or another in that 23. But Pau did send what was pretty much a kind of full click side.
Pretty much, yeah.
And got absolutely pumped, which just seems to be what happens now.
Yeah, as we were kind of watching it in the build-up, keeping track of scores in the build-up to the Vannes game, once it got to 20 points to 3 at half-time, there's kind of an air of inevitability about it. Having watched the game, they were the best team for the first 15 minutes. They were 3-0 up. Toulouse were fumbling stuff. There was no cohesion. They looked really rusty, and they went really well. And they looked pretty good. They cocked up a few lineouts of their own, which had they got right, could have been, could have built a lead. And then Toulouse just kind of clicked, I guess, a little bit. They weren't. I mean, Toulouse weren't. It's weird. I was expecting the full champagne, like having been on my other team, being on the receiving end of the full full click Toulouse with the 80 points or whatever they put on Leicester. It wasn't quite, they weren't quite at that level. Capozzo was absolutely remarkable in that first. I think his hat-trick was sealed in 48 minutes or something, but the try where he steps off the left, I just didn't realise quite that he had quite that much pace. The interesting thing here was definitely that kind of accelerated the swing of momentum was Joe Simmons picked up an injury on 20 minutes and tried to play through it. I don't know, I think someone must have like trodden on his foot or something like that because he had ice on it. He tried to run it off, like he played another 6-7 minutes. So I don't think it's particularly bad. There was nothing obvious. Like he was down for a long time and I was worried it was kind of studs trapped and done his cruciate ligament or something. But I'm hoping it's not serious. The fact he tried to play on for so long kind of suggests that he's all right. But do you know who filled in at 10 when he went off?
I have no idea. Enlighten me.
The rest is a player that we are big fans of. Teo Atisogbe.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Blimey.
Which is bizarre because obviously they had on the bench a guy who has played 10 in a test match.
I don't know who was on their bench.
Dan Robson.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously that farce at the end of Eddie Jones when they were saying, oh no, we wanted Dan Robson on the pitch at 10 rather than George Ford. We've been training for it, which is just, yeah. So Robson did come on at half time and play 10, but poor old Teo Atisogbe was trying his best. You know, he's still only 20 and to my knowledge, never played 10. I don't think he's ever certainly never played 10 professionally. His kicking was pretty good. It kind of looked like they definitely lost all shape in attack, which is hardly surprising. His own moments of individual skill were pretty impressive at times. He just looked like a guy trying to do. He seemed to be absolutely everywhere in attack and defence. He looked like he was trying to do absolutely anything and everything he could, which was great to see. But yeah, unfortunately, not quite enough. And just it's quite weird going into a Toulouse away without a backup 10. Desperez was there. I don't know what.
Yeah, that feels like a bit of a failure of selection.
I think you're pinning a lot of eggs. I mean, they're already pinning a lot of eggs in one basket on Simmons anyway. I mean, once you lose your fly half and you're playing a 20-year-old wing/fullback at 10, followed by a scrum half in the second half, it's just, you're never going to win against that Toulouse team. Yeah. And especially like it kind of got really damaging as you might expect when they've kind of gone all full bomb squad and it's Miafu off the bench, Willis off the bench, Merkler was really good off the bench. Lacombe, it wasn't Cramont this time. Lacombe looks really good. Tell you who I was impressed with, who I think, stating a case for starting, Julien Marchand. I thought he was really good, and I think the way that Malvac is flattered to deceive this season, I think Marchand looks like he means business.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's kind of my summary of the game. Which is quite ironic, the Poe lack of fly half when Toulouse had at their disposal a bloke who's played, well, man of the match at 10 against the All Blacks, and then another bloke just playing on the wing who has played 10 in an international rugby game in Kinghorn. Yeah, it's just slightly taking the piss.
Yeah, not a great result for Poe, but they'll be back, no doubt. And
quite worrying signs that we're going to do European stuff later in the week, or we're not doing it on this, but quite worrying signs for Sale. The fact that they got all their players back. They had that rusty period at the start of the game, and then they clicked. The fact that they were clicking by the end of the game is ominous for whoever they come up with. Well, Sale, and you would assume whoever they come up against in the quarterfinals the following week.
Yeah, they're just a bit of a juggernaut at the moment, aren't they? I think to round it out, the last game was the late kickoff on Saturday, which was another narrow home win for Cast at home to Toulon. Not without a little bit of drama. There was a disallowed try for Toulon, I think, in the second last minute of play, from which Cass got a scrum penalty, which was then booted out. I saw a few people saying a bit of a hometown decision. I think it probably was a forward pass, but Cass were hanging in there for the last 10, 15 minutes of this one. Got to see Marmonu off the bench, which was quite good fun. He looked
fizzed a lovely flat ball, 15-meter pass, didn't he?
He looked absolutely fine. He looked like as young as he did. He's just ageless. He facially looks.
Yeah,
he does look on a solid old skincare regime.
They do say that over the age of 40, you do you just gain a bit of a beer belly. He does seem to have kind of got that over 40s dad bod coming in. As much as someone like I'm not going to say that to his face. As much as someone like Marnon who can have a dad bod, there's definitely a kind of spare tire developing, as there should be. The man's 42.
Yeah, they thought he looked. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't on for that
massive.
long, but he was just and not he didn't look sluggish either. So yeah, had the kind of fun and games of him alongside Oliver Cowie, who was. Wow. Yeah, actually very, very good for Toulon, the bits of this game that I saw. For a guy who I don't think was necessarily front and centre of the Six Nations performance, bar his excellent interviewing on behalf of his French teammates. But yeah, story, I cast kind of, love them for it. But these, the story says they've only lost once at home this year, but most of these have been scraped, and yeah, I don't know, I feel like there's probably one slightly overdue, to be honest, for Cast.
They have one bonus point at home, which was the game we were at, which was an unconvincing last minute third try, having shut out Perpignan, who didn't look like scoring all game. It was kind of that was unconvincing attacking bonus points you could get.
But they're now fifth, which is looking not bad for a Barra spot, and they've still only lost I think once this year. Yeah, in that game away at Béziers to Montpellier. So Xavier Sarduni and co march on, which is great to see.
What happened with that bigger charge down?
I don't know. I didn't see that live. That was when I was walking back from my solo venture after I had to put you to bed after a bit too much sun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's top 14 done.
Yet again, when there's a break, it's just tantalizingly poised. And I want more. I want top 14 next weekend. As much as I love, like the last 16, certainly the quarterfinals of Europe is my favourite rugby weekend of the year. I absolutely love it. But I want more top 14 right now. It's just, I don't know where it's going to go. I couldn't call it other than Toulouse finishing top.
Yeah. Anyway, you've got the beauty of Pro Day to keep you satiated this week. We'll back in a sec to talk through the events there in just a moment.
Hear that? It's SpringFest savings calling your name. Only at Lowe's. Right now, get a free Select Ego 56-volt battery when you buy a Select Ego trimmer, blower, or mower. Plus, get your choice of any 2 bags of Miracle Grow organic soil mix for only $16. Shop these can't-miss deals in-store or online today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Valid through 4/2. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Hawaii.
Switch to Verizon Business and get more from your internet without paying more for your internet. Get LTE Business Internet starting at $39 a month when paired with a Business Unlimited smartphone plan. That's unlimited data, and with it, unlimited possibilities. Start saving today with Verizon Business, ranked #1 in small business internet customer satisfaction by J.D. Power. Starting price for 25 megabits per second internet plan with savings, plus taxes, fees, and economic adjustment charge. Terms apply. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
You're the perfect blend of elegance and style, and your ride should be no different. The 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid meets all your needs, from business to brunch and everywhere in between. With head-turning details like a sleek front end, plus stylish interior, and an available 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and seamless tech integration. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more about the new 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
Okay, it's always at this time of the year a big round of the top 14, but I think this is probably, if not for the eventualities, we've spoken a bit about how the league is shaping up, certainly one of the more eye-catching rounds in terms of just the results themselves. And 2, I think, really come to mind. One is Colomiers, who are obviously going pretty well, but they've hammered Oyonnax 62-12, which would usually be the pasting of the weekend, were it not for the quite remarkable feat that Provence pulled off of going to Valence Roman and losing 63-7, which Valence, good side, good at home. I don't think we thought they had a 50 plus point margin win against what was pretty much a full strength Provence in them. But yeah, I genuinely don't know what more to say on that.
It's just mad, isn't it? Like that Provence side, Isaac Rodder, Capelli Peffoletti, who was at Saracens last year. I think he's a really good player. Finau and North in the centres. Like that's the best centre pairing in Pro D2. Yeah, it's just absolute. I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to finish. Told you, mate. Valence are good. They're probably still bottom, aren't they? Or second
No,
bottom.
so actually, this is for the having.
Oh my God, they're 10th.
Yeah, so the running joke, obviously, that no matter what happens to Valence Roman, they're always second bottom. But this was their week. They've now vaulted to 10th in the league. Interesting, they're one of a few sides. The role of bonus points is absolutely enormous in this, isn't it? Because they're one of a few sides on 10 wins, and there's plenty of teams below them or a couple of teams below them on 11. So they've been hanging in there.
They are one ahead of Biarritz, who are obviously but Aurillac are on 11, and they are, which is as many as Dax in 8th, and Aurillac are 15th.
Yeah,
and they are a full 7 points behind Dax, although Dax do have a draw. But yeah, that's basically all bonus points, isn't it?
Dax, who beat Biarritz. No, they didn't. They beat, who did they beat? Béziers. Got my B's wrong.
Mate. Béziers
on the slide.
Béziers are the team that are going to go down, because that was a half decent side that they had out. It's not dissimilar to what they've had out over recent weeks when they've had good teams at home. They've just got bad injuries to have got Marquez out for the season.
Amen.
Who is their main man, absolute main man in the kind of, it's like that Petit General runs the show on steroids with Marquez. But they've got Pouter, who was their big ball carrier at number 8, and Ancelli, like a stalwart number 7, played loads and played pretty much every game. So to lose 2/3 of your first choice back row and your goal kicker, playmaker, captain, leader is not a good sign for in amongst some pretty tough fixtures. That was actually one of their easier ones to go away for Dax. So
this game was also, so finished 33-6. It was 9-6 with 9 minutes to go. And it was just some sort of implosion. The Dax Béziers game. Yeah.
Oh my God, so it was. That's madness. So they got a attacking bonus as well.
Mm.
Big win for Agen with a
massive win for
last-minute try. Or not a last-minute try, it was
85
minutes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's incredible, yeah.
79th minute and 85th minute to overcome Grenoble. That come end of the season, and that was a pretty strong Grenoble side. Davis played, Jose Madeira played, to overcome Grenoble at home that late in the day could make all the difference to Agen.
Bit of a turning
point
the
end of season, because without that they would be bottom this week. They'd be 15th. Are Nice mathematically down? No, not quite. 24 adrift with 6 to play. They're not far off being mathematically down. Yeah, that's an absolutely huge result for Agen. I think I saw that Madeira made something like 22 tackles and didn't miss one in defeat.
Yeah.
For Grenoble. What a player. Same every week as well. Any other games that caught the eye?
Or Brive, very much the beaters of the Friday night curse. They got a second win in that fixture. We're at Montauban, which actually is a pretty big result, right? Montauban been going quite well, and it's only 4 points, but it does just give them a little bit of breathing room over Provence and the rest of the pack, including our boy Soyo Angoulême, who got an excellent away win at the ever reliably unreliable Stade Montois.
I think they hadn't beaten Mont de Marsan in something like 5 games.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a little hoodoo overcome. Yet another midfield break from Arthur Proult to score a wonder try. He does it every week. Like, how's this guy not? How's he not playing for France?
Yeah, he's a really good player, isn't he?
And that wasn't even full noise. That wasn't or not at absolute full noise. So a brilliant result for Soyo Angoulême, who, I think Colomiers, Montauban drop out after that defeat of the top 6, but I think they'll be all right. I think. Imagine if Soyo Angoulême get a home semi. That'd be
I know, quite an amazing story. quite a fillip as well for a coach. You know, Alex Ruiz. Not long ago as a referee and has come into
one of controversial one at that.
One of the kind of smaller sides. You know, well, historically one of the smaller sides in Pro Day Dirt, and it's doing amazing things there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, with a young squad as well.
All right, I think so we've covered most of the headlines there. Nevers beat Stade Niçois as anticipated, and Aurillac did beat Biarritz, albeit wobbled slightly towards the end. Anything take your fancy for next week?
Oh, balls, that's an April Fool. Sorry, I got distracted. I will share that in a minute. Well, I was actually trying to find, I got distracted on Instagram because I was trying to find where Soyon Guillem were in the budget, but carry on. Anything, what takes your fancy next week? Soyon Guillem have the 4th lowest budget in the league.
No, really? That's pretty good going, isn't it? There's a few that don't look that tight, to be honest with you. So I would probably say Thursday night Biarritz Montauban could be interesting at the Aguilera. And perhaps after the results of this weekend, Agen travelling to Oyonnax. But one, that's a long way, and two, you would think Oyonnax can't be that bad at home as they were away. So we will see. I wouldn't say it looks like a vintage round of fixtures, big hitters at home, but you never know. But
mate, the big hitters are away. Valence Roman's away to Brive.
Yeah, well,
I'm intrigued to see how that comes out. Like Valence, to be fair, might just throw in the towel and just send a really weak side and rest there.
Could have a 100-point differential between weeks.
Yeah,
and we'll see.
Because they've got Grenoble at home the following week.
Yeah. Okay. Should we leave Pro Day Dirt? Say we're going to look ahead to the Champions Cup later in the week. And Challenge Cup, I should say, and come back to close off with some Petit-Fours and a little digestif. Okay, Rob, this feels like there's a lot of rugby going on at the moment, and there's a lot of rugby stories as well. So what has been, you're chuckling away at something. So I would assume it's a really poorly done April Fool's.
We are, yeah, there's a really bad one on the Top 14 official account about OnlyFans and boots. So we are recording this on the 1st of April. But the one that grabbed my attention mid recording there was the big news that Faf de Klerk has been confirmed as the medical joker at Toulouse for Antoine Dupont. Faf de Klerk will be playing at Toulouse. #rugby, #top 14, #April Fools. So
I did see on that
that's quite a convincing one though. It was Rugby Pass FR. I was like, oh wow.
Apparently Jerome Kine had been in touch with Aaron Smith, but I don't think there'd been much to come of it, unfortunately.
Gutted.
So who were the others that genuinely were on the list? I saw Midi Olympique, I think Jake Gordon.
Good player, to be fair.
Ryan Lawrence, I think played a couple games at Montpellier.
Yeah.
And there was one other who I can't remember. I did also see that in Scrum Half merry-go-round news, there was talk of Ben Youngs being linked with Racing 92.
Yes, yeah, I did see that.
Which I think we could see him having a bit of a swan song somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be quite cool.
Go on then. What were the big news stories for you?
Well, in sort of criminal-related news, we've got our favourite team of Wrong'uns, Montpellier. We saw that Mohamed Hawass is not playing and training, but has to remove his tag for playing and training for Montpellier because he's been convicted of drink driving, I think. And I'm not quite sure how much bigger his rap sheet needs to get for him to not play rugby. But
being in jail.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite extraordinary. And similar, well, no, it's probably unfair to compare the two, but Wilfried Humpatan, who's had his issues with the law, has agreed to play for Senegal.
Wow.
Which is quite a turn up. Yeah. So
France anytime soon, isn't he?
No, you wouldn't have thought so. So yeah, various fates of two questionable French props there, but one seems to maybe be doing something a bit more constructive with his time. Yeah. So that caught my eye in the week. What else have I got here? I feel like I need to spend some time chewing into this, but the Jaminet saga appears to be kind of growing, brewing, then it's done for. I'm still not entirely sure what's going on, but the last bits I read were Toulouse have been fined 1 point something million euros for their role in this. Whether that's been confirmed or not, I don't know. I saw a statement, I think, from the cast president, who perhaps unsurprisingly had was calling for sort of more. I think the translation was dissuasive sanctions, a bit more rugby based. So yeah, Robert was sticking his oar into it. But yeah, I think it's still rumbling on this one. So quite what's going to happen next, I don't know. But it's clearly not being swept under the carpet by the LNR.
And it's to do with him basically. He basically bought himself out of his contract at Perpignan to move to Toulouse, and it's just questionable whether where the funds went that bought and where they came from and stuff like that, and whether Toulouse paid him to then pay himself out. And I think the donation to some Pacific fund that possibly
I think it is.
Fund that
I think is essentially a roundabout way of repaying him for taking out a personal loan to secure a release clause in his contract from Perpignan. But
it's ironic given that he then buggered off mid-season because he couldn't get a game and wasn't working for him.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, the depth of 15s at Toulouse. Plus, if this goes this way, when it was the Saracens salary cap saga, it was the international 15 what done it when suddenly Liam Williams was also playing alongside Elliot Daly and Alex Good. I dare say there's it feels like there's shades of that story here, but yeah, we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, there we go.
In Brighton news, well, actually no, let's go for a slightly sad one. So Eddie Jordan passed away recently. It might have been quite a while ago now, which is not traditional rugby news. Yes, the F1 Eddie Jordan. He was part of the consortium, or brought together people that have then founded the consortium that have funded Béziers. So I think this week is their first home game, so they will be paying a tribute to him. So, and I think he was going to be involved in London Irish, wasn't he? But don't think that's going to have any impact on the funding of Béziers. I think the consortium's funds are sorted and stuff like that.
Done.
So, in slightly cheerier news, well, actually slightly related to Béziers, one of those consortium members, Andrew Mertens. So not entirely related to rugby. You're aware of the All Blacks, obviously, Richard. The Black Caps being the New Zealand cricket team. You've got the Silver Ferns being the women's rugby. You've got the All Whites. Andrew Mertens was with the Sharp Blacks in Paris. Do you know who the Sharp Blacks are and what they were competing in?
Oh my God. The Sharp Blacks. What's Sharp? Sport. Frisbee.
Not really a sport. It's the World Butchers Challenge.
Excellent.
But quite like that they're called the Sharp Blacks. Have you got another one? Or shall I keep going?
It was just Christoph Urios, one of our favourite characters. I think he'd had a few slightly critical words about the Clermont fans that he then had to backtrack on. So the quote here is, "When I hear people call our fans cowards, it's unthinkable." He defends the Yellow Army before the match against La Rochelle. And I can't translate the full article, but I think he may have, in his frustrations, made a couple of remarks and gone back on them, as is his wont.
Just rattling through a few others. Louis Bielbiere, second try against Ireland, the kind of chip round the chip or the grubber through and chase round was try of the tournament for Six Nations, but it also inspired a viral video a few weeks ago. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
So it's two lads, and they're down at Blognac, like on the pitch at Blognac. The guy like chips ahead past his mate and then runs round the back of the stadium, and the ball is kind of, and then he comes out and the ball is like still bouncing, and he picks it up and dots it down, which it is very good as a viral video go, and also a nice touch that is at Blognac. It was also 40 years to the day last week that the first Canal Plus rugby broadcast, which was the quarterfinal of the now defunct French Cup between Narbonne and FC Lourdes.
Oh, nice.
Narbonne won 12-6, and Narbonne went on to win that French Cup against Toulouse in Carcassonne later that year, which would have been televised.
Oh, that's very cool. Excellent. Well, feels like a nice note to end on that. I did see a little bit of the footage you posted. It was a lovely kind of graininess. Looked like there was going to be a fight, basically.
I was going to say, like, it looked like there was a fight. In fact, it was 12-6, suggested Inglorious Sunshine, suggested it was gritty.
Excellent. The last one for me was that in the week down in Aldershot, there were also a double win, the men's and women's. British Army beat their French counterparts, with one Samisa Rockadaguni turning out at 13 following his spell in Montauban and now at Doncaster. So, yeah, good on him. Alrighty, we are done for another week. We will be back to discuss the European Cups in due course. In the meantime, you can follow us on all the usual places. Email us, rosbiffrugby@gmail.com. I've been Richard, that's been Rob. We've been the Rosbiff Rugby Podcast. Until next time, au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.